And I'm so nosy.
Be nosy. I'm so nosy.
You,
Yeah.
because you weren't as active on social
No,
media for a
not
whole
at
period.
all. Because I thought it was his fault. And actually, it was culture, as you say. So if I took away that judgment, that's just what happened there. The way that we try to psychologize everything.
Yeah.
And maybe the solutions are there rather than just thinking, these are my diagnosis, I have to deal with it by myself. And
So we're moving into this time of individuation, which is why the science of differentiation and becoming full of yourself and really understanding who you are is so important. But only...
I love the way you present that and sort of share that. It makes so much sense and articulates it in such an incredible way.
Thank you. Welcome to Becoming Full of Yourself, the show where fulfillment is not a finish line, it's a way of being. I'm Ebony Allard, master coach, energy specialist, soul contract guide, here to help you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. In each episode, we explore what it means to lead from the inside out, embody your truth, and become so full of yourself that you overflow. Let's get into it. I'm really excited about this conversation. I have said that for every guest this season, but that is what happens when you get really courageous to just reach out to people on the internet and say, will you come and have a conversation with me, please?
My response was yes. So I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. And I wanted to add into that. So like, it wasn't just a complete stranger off the internet, although I do that and I'm fine with it. But we know each other in a really random way. And it's not random at all. It's like, it's absolutely beautiful, but to a normie,
exactly,
it might be really weird. Do you want to tell them how we know each other?
So dark room, lights, everyone meditating, lights flashing. I'm just sat on this chair and I see your beautiful face and I'm like, so beautiful, but also I think I know her. I don't know how, but I think I know her. So you were sat behind me and I turned around to be like, do I know you? I don't even think I said hi. I was like, I think I know. And we've both modelled and know Lucky So-and-so. So Carly, who sews underwear to size U. And we've both modelled for her. And that's where I know you from. I love all your images. And yeah, it just was amazing to see you in person. As beautiful as ever.
Oh, thanks. And I do love that. It was such a moment of, like, literally, I had spent a couple of weeks being like, at some point, I really want to bump into her. I wonder if we'll bump into each other. Yeah, completely. And then I'm sitting at a sober rave in the UK that I had literally like flown over for the weekend to take some friends to, because Jess was running it and she told me it was the last one, and Jess is a friend of mine. And then I was like, I recognize that back tattoo.
The back tattoo, yeah.
And it's that same thing, right? Of you being like, I'm very sorry. I mean, I do recognize your face, but actually, I'm sure I've seen you in your underwear.
Yeah, that's it. That's actually the connection I made. It was so funny, but I just was so happy for those little connections to be made. And sober raves are my favorite place to be. There's something like grunge about it quite still, but it feels like a nice representation of my personality and what I've grown into. So to meet you there was just really special.
It is exactly that. And I went with like a childhood friend and then a client who's become a really good friend. And we're all very, very sensitive weirdos who don't like people but love music and really miss the kind of anonymity of the 90s rave. And of just being like able to dance safely without unwanted attention and without like it being a thing or being photographed or in the gaze all the time. And so there's something really beautiful about spaces that allow for me to kind of be my wildest and truest playful self that inhabits that whole range between kind of provocative and sexy and like in my body, and also like innocent and twirly and butterfly and just in the sensation.
Completely resonate with all of that. And I actually went to that one by myself for that reason. Like, it's sober, I feel safe, and I'm there to dance. Like, I don't I don't go to raves to talk, sadly. I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. We can talk another time.
Yeah.
So I'm just there, and I was sort of dancing to every tune. I don't think I got off that dance floor, and I felt amazing after. I felt amazing during. It was, yeah, special.
Yeah. And I think that links me kind of into what I wanted to talk to you about, because we've touched on like all the things in there, right? Like femininity, full
Yeah.
range, being in your body, what you value, standing for what you believe in, like advocating for yourself, showing up anyway, not attributing your worth to how it looks, but how it feels instead, right? There's so many places, and actually, you know, it's not, even though it's a coincidence under synchronicity, it's not a surprise. It's the same way that I connected with Carly in the first place, right? Like when you own your values, when you live your values out loud, you can't do anything other than attract your people.
Yeah, I've never really thought about that. I feel I'm at a stage where I had a realization where I had a big shift during that COVID period. So I wasn't meeting with people as much as I would have. And I'd created, and from the ground up, this Reena. I basically, not, she's not new, but she needed to be found again, basically. And I've now come out into the world, and it's really hard for me to be human and be this Reena out in the world, because this is new for me. But you're completely right. The people that I have been connected with and been drawn to have been drawn to me set in the same way. So everything has shifted during a period of quite darkness. Yeah, there's light there.
And it's so like a couple of things. Before we started talking, we were talking about you being a projector, and me kind of sharing a little bit of what I saw in your human design, because people often think, oh, I need to learn my human design, and you don't need to learn your human design. Like, you are it.
Yeah.
All you need to do is to come back to your body and listen to your truth and act upon it.
Completely. And I feel like that's what I'm doing now. And it wasn't like I didn't read every self-healing book. I didn't read, actually, I don't like reading. I didn't read any of it. I had to really feel it. I had to feel it in every tear, in every part of my body that was aching, and every dance I danced to sort of overcome it. But you're right. It is an embodied feeling, and it drop out of here and you feel into this. And that is power that you can't learn from a book, or you can't learn from the school system, for example.
And so you had a kind of experience of moving into the you that you are now.
Yes. Yeah.
Over a period of, I guess, 4 years, 5 years,
Yeah.
I would link it to your Saturn, and that doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm interested in, and I'm so nosy.
Be nosy. I'm so nosy.
Well, because if I'm really honest, did I connect with Reena online first? No, the first way that I came into finding you, because you weren't as active on social media
not at all,
was that the other person in your life who is very
yeah,
active on social media, or definitely was, right? Well, and I don't want to talk about him or make this about him at all,
absolutely,
but again, that was through Carly's other half and his social media, and then seeing a very active person who I had a reaction to, which is really interesting, right? Because at first I was like, oh yeah, so my kind of person, and then a little while into it I was like, no, I actually need to unfollow him, and which is why I'm like not naming, right?
Of course.
But through him found you and was like, oh yeah, like, and for me there was this journey where his social media blew up very quickly, or it felt like very quickly, and very, very big. And then there was this bit where you appeared in his social media, and initially was very kind of innocent and a little bit shy and a little bit like naive and a little bit like really beautiful, but like on purpose mystical or mythical,
you're right,
enigma. And then slowly, like, you found your Kali goddess power, and that grew and grew and grew and grew. And for me, I was like, oh, I know that they've got very shared values. I know that they are living and walking their talk, which I really relate to. but through his human filter, it's annoying me more than it's like landing.
Yeah.
But through yours, I was like, oh, I could listen to her speak all day.
Yeah.
Her images, I enjoy her music, and I find that so fascinating.
Yeah, I do too.
I'd love to hear how that journey was for you on the other side.
Yeah, I would love to share about that. And it's funny because when we met, what you see online is what you get, basically. And our values are very much the same. So when we first met, I had probably, just very quickly, I'll go back to the beginning. So worked in advertising and marketing for many years.
Yeah.
Went through some heartbreaks, but during a period after one of my biggest heartbreaks, I would say, where I was cheated on, I turned to my work, alcohol, drugs, a lot of it. And that's all I stood for. And I realized that my parents were arranged marriage. So my understanding of what being a woman was to not be like my mum, but I saw my mum as submissive.
Yeah.
And as much as she helped me, I was like, I must be everything that she's not. And I became a workaholic, and all I wanted to be known for was my drugs and my alcohol. And I can still turn up to work the next day and like these things.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand my femininity. I was very much in my masculine. And I thought I didn't connect that was in relation to my mum and what I thought patriarchy was, even though I feel like they've given me every opportunity. I've really understood that now. Anyway, the reason I say that is because I made several decisions where I would create a character in my head, and that character was this devil woman. She was dark-skinned, black, she had horns, and every time I'd sleep with a guy, I'd say, well, I don't really care. Like, fuck it, I don't care. I've got to go now, bye. And I would cry by myself at home. That did that for many years, and got with someone who I thought I had like fallen in love with, and they completely broke me in many ways. I allowed that and I enabled that. So I take full accountability, and that's one of my core values.
Yeah.
But like I completely allowed that, and that's where my break was. I completely broke down, did not know who I was, who I wanted to be. I actually didn't want to live. It was hard. I didn't want to wake up every day. I was like, don't want to do this. And that's because I built a character for that many years based on being this person. I wasn't soft. So the reason I say that is because I've shifted completely now.
Yeah.
So when I met Soren, he was actually working in pharma. And I had, done the right thing, gone to school, come out of school, got a good job, And I'd met someone who didn't have a family, didn't finish school, was very abrupt in the way he spoke, said what he thought. And I was confused. I was like, this is not how I was brought up. Like how? And like, the first thing he had like said to me was like, don't care what you eat, but you need to know if you're a vegan, we can't be together because I eat lots of meat. Like just like that. Like just like completely. And I was like, I'm so drawn to this like honesty. I'm just like, but I'm confused. Anyway, we were together. Our values were very much aligned, and we helped each other in that development. But he is neurodivergent, and he had a huge mental breakdown at the beginning of our relationship. So before he was on social media, he actually hated it.
Yeah.
And I remember he was on the sofa and just crying, not crying, he just had no emotion. We hadn't had sex in a long time. He was depressed. He used to say, I just want to cross this train track. And it makes me want to cry because this isn't who I know now. And this is why I defend him so much, because I'm like, I rather this than what I saw there. Was like, he's like, I want to just cross this train track and I just want a train to come. Like he just didn't want to, and he didn't know he was neurodivergent at that time.
And I feel like I want to add two things and not ruin your train of thought.
No, but I knew there was going to be some overlap here. Yeah.
Well, so one, my version, and if you ever read my book, or anyone who's read my book, you'll see the whole story, Misfit to Maven, very, very similar. And mine was a sassy tattooed Mary Poppins, this character that I created, so that I could do everything, be everything to everyone, and leave when the wind changed, right? So I totally had that version. And there was a lot of my story around that transition that you're talking about. For me, it was 28 to 32, like very, very similar.
Similar age.
Very successful. It's that Saturn return thing. So I got very successful in my first business and ended up homeless and blah, 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 right? But so there's that bit, and I see you, and again, like I didn't realize how I was letting the patriarchy and my feelings about weakness and femininity stop me from being an incredibly powerful feminine woman. And then the other bit about Soren is like, I respect him. I'm not saying, you know, I absolutely, and I probably would love him in real life, right? It's that thing of when we see a snapshot of
of course.
And at the beginning, you know, I adored his work, and we are a values match, which is why, you know, all of us link. There is just a place sometimes, and I have this a lot with a lot of very strong masculine men, where I am at no. Like, I disagree. And what I'm learning, and I've only just learned this in my most recent relationship, and it's blown my fucking mind that it's taken me to 44, but I'm so proud of myself for learning and healing it, is it turns out you can disagree with someone
completely.
And it's not the end. It's not the end of the relationship. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of you. It's not the end of them. And like, so to be really clear, it's like, I really value men, sorry, who are stepping into their warrior and out of their nice guy, which is dangerous and not doing anyone any favors. Because even like, I may not agree with how he shares things, but that doesn't mean I don't respect it. And we are allowed to disagree, and still, like, I would still send neurodivergent men to him because I respect him. And that's the thing that we need to understand, I think, as human beings, is you don't have to like everyone, and you can respect people you don't like. And that is such a huge part of this development journey, you know?
I mean, I think that's so important. And that's why we get along so well, because I don't agree with everything that he posts, but we always agree with what the message is. We just deliver it in very different ways.
Exactly that. And I think also that he and I got our neurodivergent diagnosis about the same time.
Oh, really?
And I think that what happens with that is another identity shift and grief for who you were and the coping mechanisms. And then this also like, oh, I have superpower. It's like, so much of relationship is also about the timing that you meet someone in.
Oh, completely. Yeah, definitely. And I think I've learned so much from this relationship, how to be a bit more accepting. And it was just like, it's funny because there's so many inappropriate messages that he receives from women who's just saying bad things. And I just think, if I hadn't developed this strength within me, I don't think I could be with you, or many people could survive this, because it's intense and it's a lot. And for me, it's like it shows how strong I am. And it's funny about the masculine, it's masculine and feminine. We actually see it as a dance. So he, although, you know, represents masculinity in many ways, and I do femininity, but we swap places all the time. And it was like, when we first met, I was very much in my masculine. And I think we were talking about the other day, I think it was important that I was there, because he had a mental breakdown immediately. So for about a year and a half, I'd say, he didn't work, he couldn't work. And he was working, actually, he started doing social media at that time. And I looked after everything. And as he started getting bigger, I'm now at a position where I need to step into my creativity. And so he's now swapped, and we just do that quite a lot. And it's so
for me, that is what union is. And if we look at Shakti and Shiva, if we look at actually, you know, if we look at any of the, and actually I do want to talk a little bit about your kind of looking at your ancestry, or looking at kind of because there is that part, I suppose, of, and it's like, oh, we've got so much I want to talk about, but that, you know, your journey and the kind of the unfolding of that. But part of that was also like, I think there's so much around femininity where people think feminine is submissive and meek, but actually and you had that view of your mum. And I wonder then how looking at the culture through a different lens of perhaps less judgment has actually shifted your relationship with femininity and your and all of that stuff.
I love that you brought that up, because it's what I thought back then, but in her femininity and her nurturing and what she did for us was strength that no one else could endure. So there is strength there. So I've now appreciated in so many ways the power of femininity. And again, me and my partner always talk, like, we don't think the masculinity can survive without the safety of this femininity.
Nurture. If we're all warriors,
exactly.
who nurtures our warriors?
Exactly. That's exactly it. And it's like, we also talk about Athena being like a great representation of the both, but there's one of her. Like, she is, there's not many. She was like a god in her own right, and we need to work together because there's many of us. And I do see, I like myself a lot more. I like my femininity, and I like my masculinity, and I like the dance between them. But even when I was growing up, when I was very young, I would say like 8, I told everyone I was a boy. Like, I had such hatred to being a young girl at such a young age that I dressed like a boy. I told everyone I was a boy. And there was just a lot of that. And I only recently connected that with the fact that I had a view of what my mum meant to me. And I also only recently, during my sort of breakthrough, I don't say breakdown, breakthrough, have like loved my dad again. And for many years I hated him because I thought it was his fault. And it was culture, as you say. So if I took away that judgment, that's just what happened then. Like, it was a business decision, my mum's family couldn't look after her. It had to happen. That's what happened. And that's made me, and I'm a strong woman today. And I really appreciate that. And I see how much she has done and he has done from there. So yeah, it's completely changed my view. But that was ingrained from a very young age.
There's so much in there, and again, I'm aware of time, and maybe we'll
we can talk forever.
we could, and I would absolutely love to do some events with you, and we'll figure out some ways of doing it, because I think that there's a piece in so much of the well-being world, the embodiment practice world, the polarity world, like all of the stuff that you and I are dancing in now, and our journeys are always unique and spiral us into our purpose and our life's work. So many of them are, and I'm mindful of how I use this word, but kind of misappropriating culture. And my personal feelings on that are very unique and nuanced, because I am somebody who can see everything from every perspective. And for me, learning yoga and like studying as a practitioner, doing all of that philosophy, spending a lot of time in Thailand, in Bali, in other, Mauritius, in cultures where the feminine is revered. It was very, very well, some of that, not all of those countries. Like where there's a different culture, where there's a different relationship, and also, having a place where I could be on a mat and learn the physical discipline. There weren't. My dad was one of the very first 5 rhythms teachers. I have been around all of this stuff my whole life, doing it, but in the same way as you, right? Like, what do we do when we have something in our life? We either become the same as it, or we reject it. And I've done both, but the first was to reject it. And, there was no way I was going to, I did classes, but for my own work, I felt like I was being looked at and watched his spaces. And so yoga studios that were not his and had nothing to do with him were my space. But it wasn't until I started to look at my culture, my ancestry, my heritage, which is culturally Jewish, and I started to see how women were in history and their relationship with femininity, and it's in that, and claiming, like, I thought I had to choose for such a long time. I'm like, am I big or am I small? Am I opinionated or am I meek? Am I shy? Am I introvert? Am I an extrovert? And actually, through really having my own dance with my own culture, like you say, not reading the books, but remembering through connecting with my womb, my body, my heart, the trauma of the generations in my cells, was able to find the woman that I am and was always designed to be, with the cultural history that I have. And I don't know that that's going to make sense to a lot of people.
Yeah,
It's really important.
I'm so appreciative that you brought that up, because for me, that's really important. I think that we can only really make progress forward if you start to heal yourself based on your history, and appreciating that and taking the wisdom from that. And I think it's quite difficult for many people in today's world, because there's a lot of judgment. Even in like the corporate world, the term DEI, diversity and inclusion, already there, even though it's about unbiased, there's so much bias there. And it really upsets me, because we can't move forward if you've already created a hierarchy, like the term, straight white male. I'm like, but I think you can't, if you create that judgment and put that block there, that person can never look back and start to really heal that, and start to heal themselves today, and then become a better person tomorrow. So it's almost like created a vicious cycle of, we're trying to do good, but we're not allowing you to do the work.
And that's because as soon as you put shame in, someone can't do anything, right? There's no way forward.
Exactly.
And as soon as you say you were bad, there's how is someone supposed to go forward?
Exactly.
And I think there's a lot of people where they're like, well, when we're revealing secrets or we're revealing bad behavior, people in the past, and people are like, well, then you can't listen to any of their music, you can't read their books, you can't do that. Like, the culture is relevant. It is important. A bit like you were saying, if you look back at your parents, like, you can have judgment in this day and age with the society that you were raised in about that. But we have to take it in context, not out of context.
I love that. Yeah. So that's, I'd say, really important to me. It forms part of my core values. One of my core values is what I aim for is liberation, but one of them that sits under that is integration. That's integration of like your past, your present, and who you want to become. Integration of your culture within the culture that you're within. Integration of, there's so much there, and I think that is a route to liberation. So for me, I had to really integrate those traumas of, that's what happened to my parents. That's what they did. And therefore, what do I want to do with it? How do I understand it now? And what do I want to do with it in the future? And one of the things that have come up recently, so I would say my medicine is dance.
Yeah.
And I had these issues around appropriation of things. And I think it's important to learn from different cultures, but I also think it's important to look back and say, I wonder what they did in my culture, and stand for that, share that, stand for that's what I would love. I want to learn from everyone, instead of saying that one's better, so I'm just going to go, it also looks visually better. I'm like, bitch, no. No, but anyway.
And also it's like, try it on, right? Like in human design, you're a 1-3, right? So it's like, find the information, the seed, try it on, experiment and experience, and then make a decision.
Exactly, completely. And one of my things with dance is, so I'm from Mauritius, but my heritage is Indian. So during the slave trade, I think I've spoken about this quite a lot, but people were taken from India and brought to Mauritius, as well as the Caribbean. And in Mauritius, there is a dance that is huge, and it's really core to the culture, called Sega music. And during the slavery times, they would go to the beach and dance around this fire, and there's a spirit that comes up. It's basically flow state, but there was this word called like babani, like the spirit has come upon them. And for me, that's what I reach when I dance. It is that release. It's that dancing so much that you're crying and you're moving and you're completely shaking it off. And I had to really look back into my history and be like, that's where my dance comes from. That's what I want to share with the world. So when I talk about it and I host sessions around movement medicine, I always talk about it from like, this is my story. I want to share that with you. And I want you to explore what your story is. Like I want us to come together from a place of your authentic self, who you are. Don't try to be me. Don't, like, I want to help guide you, but let's come together as ourselves. And that's what I love about dance. But yeah, huge realization and connecting my history with my connection with dance today.
And I love that story so much, because the other thing that it does is it really shows how, as a culture, the movements that they were making around the fire were very warrior, which we consider to be masculine, so that they could reach a state of transcendence that was feminine, as
I love that.
collaboratively together. And I think the more that we understand that men are not from Mars and women are not from Venus. That it isn't about this separation, right? That both are, that we both have both, and that we're both acting in service of union.
Exactly. I love that saying, in service of. Like, I always say my feminine is in service of my masculine and my masculine is in service of my feminine. I really believe that.
But they have to be, right? And like, I think that where we find so there's one other piece that, as you were talking, I was like, that makes sense, because we do share these values, right? So for me, that top value is liberation, or is at one point was autonomy, or it's freedom, or it's, you know, whatever. And when I reached a complete state of freedom, I realized I was lonely as fuck. And freedom without belonging is worth nothing to me.
I agree.
And so then, so I have a tool called the value filter, which is what I center all of my work around. It's 10 years old. It becomes your compass. It's such a great tool. It's very, very simple, but profound, and leads you into the body, right? Through this kind of intellectual pursuit of values, you come into your body. And what a lot of us now call this top value is belongdom, or free longing.
Wow, I love that. The mouthful.
To me, it's belongdom, and to other people, it's
that.
belonging, and it's that mixture, right? And what that is actually is union. And it is in union that we experience liberation and connection.
I love
simultaneously, which is that thing that we were talking about of like, apparently we can not like each other and still belong, because that is freedom and belonging. Right?
I agree. And there's so much also, sorry, just to jump in. I listened to a podcast recently, and it was around current sort of the way that we've tried to psychologize everything. And the person on the podcast was saying, actually, how about it's not just about what you're going through, but it's about what you can gain and share with the community. And maybe the solutions are there, rather than just thinking, these are my diagnoses, I have to deal with it by myself, and I'm going to take all these tablets and do whatever you want to do. But I think the bit that's missing and not spoken about enough is healing in community, you know, dancing together, drumming together, singing together. So I completely resonate with what you share.
And that is because it's beautiful that you said it just like then. Like, that is because, you know, whenever we're dealing with something, we're always dealing with its equal and opposing force. We're always dealing with everything on an axis. As a collective, for the last 18 months, we've been moving through the Aries Libra axis, which is around self and other. And as we move into the next kind of paradigm, we're moving into this astrology, what we would astrologically refer to as the age of Aquarius, right? Which cannot exist without Leo. And so Leo is like the individual. So we're moving into this time of individuation, which is why the science of differentiation and becoming full of yourself and really understanding who you are is so important, but only in the realm of it being held in a society that is much more about the collective than we have ever experienced before.
I love the way you present that and sort of share that. It makes so much sense and articulates it in such a incredible way.
Thank you. It's what I love to do. I was born to do, you know, like I love to tell stories or to share concepts that are very simple or that you've heard 1,000 times before, but in a different way, in my way, which makes them land. And there's one more part of that I've been trying to kind of get to, which is, and it's for me as well that I need to share it. One of the other values that I would say we share is this piece around integrity. Now, you called it something else earlier. What did you call it?
Not integration.
Integration. So in order to have integration, that implies there's a whole. Now, when I talk about integrity, I am not talking ethics or morals. I talk about integrity. I'm talking about the wholeness of something. So a building is in integrity and holds itself when it's whole. If you take away a beam, it's no longer in integrity, and that's when it falls apart.
That makes sense.
A wheel has spokes, and it's those spokes that allow it to become the brilliant tool that gets us all around the world, right? But if we take a spoke out, it's no longer in integrity, and then it falls apart. So for me, integrity is much more about the wholeness and the sum of its parts. And the shadow of integrity which is part of my design and a shadow I carry and am here to heal, is judgment.
Okay.
And so that piece where it's like, oh, I was really judgy of, or I've become more accepting in relationship with, or like all of the stuff that you were saying, and like we can't heal the past without, and this is the difference between trying to remove shadows and integrate them.
Yes.
We have to look at them, right?
Exactly.
I have to own that I'm judgy. I have to own that one of the things about Soren that pisses me off is that he's judgy. I'm like, the reason he triggers me is because he's judgy out loud and I'm judgy on the inside, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so when we own that, when we integrate the shadows, that's when we reach that space of integration. It's when we speak, that's how we get to liberation, right?
Yeah, I love that so much. And I think it's an important conversation to be happening now. Because I want to be in service of. That is I can't see a way of me living without being in service of. I've done a lot of work and I continue. I'm actually in a period of a lot of work at the moment, but I want to share that with people, whether it's through movement. I mentor, I think you might know, I mentor young girls who are going through sort of work, but also now doing some work with young boys. And again, I think that's really important because these two sets of teenagers are going to grow up together. So as much as you can focus on one, they will never be safe if the other isn't sort of healthy as well. So how can we work together? And I think, again, that's
so important.
Integration.
And I think that piece,
integrity.
I love, I've got complete goosebumps and
I'm so
hairs have gone, as you talk about that, because I think also something you said earlier about being, when you were a little girl, calling yourself a little boy, wanting to be a little boy, dressing up as a little boy, like all of those things. We're at a time, and we could have a whole other conversation. I'm going to wrap it up, but we're at a time where gender, polarity, everything we've just been talking about is mutating. And in order, there is no, like, we were born as, I believe, we were born at a specific time for a specific reason. And you are an adult now who's been through your story now. I am, at where I am in my life now, so that we can mentor, be of service, hold space, witness, acknowledge, and also not make wrong this generation that are rising. We create the culture of the future together.
Exactly. Yeah, agreed. I love that. I love that. That feels like such a timely conversation. I don't think we meant not that there was a focus overall, but it really felt like this was what we were drawn to talk about.
Yeah. So if people want to come follow you, find out more about the work that you're doing, get involved in the projects and in the Calm Curator, where's the best place for them to come? I'm going to put everything in the show notes.
Amazing.
They know where to come. Where's the best place?
Definitely. So I guess there's just two pages, I would say. There's my personal page, which shares more about my whole story. So not just well-being, but every single part of me, my corporate life, my all the balances that I sort of hold. And then Calm Curator is really focused on making well-being accessible. And when I say that, it's around retreats are fantastic, but if you're not too sure yet, how can you make it a little more bite-sized for someone? So that's what I would really love to convey. So if you really want to focus on learning more about different practices, Calm Curator is like that educational, accessible platform. And then Reena_Reena, I know you'll put it in the chat, in the sort of description, is me, every part of me, the music I like, the heavy metal, the gigs, the dancing, the chaotic balance that I like to hold.
And I love that I love all of the expressions of you, and I love having, I very heavily curate my life. And one of the things that I'm really proud of, and it's been a real shift for me, and something we didn't even really go into, is that shift and like how conscious it is to disassociate your value from work and be proud of other things, right? Exactly. One of the things I'm really proud of is the people that I am drawn to, are attracted to, invite into my world, who are interesting and interested. And one of the way that you present yourself in the world, the things that you share so generously are interesting and interested. So thank you
so much. That means a lot. That really means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed listening or watching this chat, then please rate, review, share, come and let us know, because it's always nice. Words of affirmation are my love language, and I would appreciate it.
Oh, amazing.
Thank you for tuning in to Becoming Full of Yourself. If you found resonance here, subscribe, share it with someone who's ready to reclaim their fullness, and leave a review to help others find this work. For more resources, rituals, real talk on living a fully fulfilled life, head to ebonyallard.com. Until next time, be bold, be brave, be full of yourself.